Hello, I am Christian Holz.
And I'm Thomas Schmitz, board member of BürgerEnergie Rhein-Sieg, from Siegburg near Bonn in Germany. Today we want to talk about building a team. Why? Building a team is incredibly important in a cooperative. In a cooperative, people work together. They want to implement projects, and you have to understand each other. And that is always best done when you know each other's worries and needs, but also their advantages and their preferences. In a cooperative, we have a board of directors and a supervisory board. How does a cooperative come into being? Quite simply, 10 people who want to implement a common idea find each other. And the best way for them to do that is to sit down together and talk to each other about it. Of these 10 people, 2 or 3 make up the board of directors, and the rest can make up the supervisory board. The idea of a cooperative is, of course, to implement projects and to move the cooperative forward as a whole. So it is the operational part. The supervisory board, on the other hand, is primarily supposed to control and supervise the board of directors, but in fact, the supervisory board, in its own right, also supports the board of directors. Team building is a very important narrative to ensure cooperation between all parts of these two bodies, so that projects can be developed and not interfered with or hindered. Team building is also important because the cooperatives are very small at the beginning, with just a few members and a few projects, but they will grow. New members join, new projects are added. Potentially, you will get new members on the board, or take on new members who can then take on other tasks. That's how it was with us. And then it is always very important that the interpersonal relationships work, that you can work on this project together with the board members, with the supervisory board members. Cooperation and joint deliberations about which projects we want to implement are incredibly important. Team building is also a big issue for us because we have grown a lot in 10 years. When a board member left for private family reasons, I was suddenly faced with the question of where to find a second, maybe a third board member. And so it was very important to go on the search and to consider what possibilities there are for someone who is actually prepared to take on such a task. And that's when I met Christian.
I was active in my hometown, in a field where different people get together to support administration in the energy transition. At a meeting of 6 members of this climate meeting, we needed additional creative people and invited Thomas from BürgerEnergie to help us find the best way to initiate and implement photovoltaic projects in our town.
Christian invited me, and we sat in his living room and talked about this project in this working group, and I took a look at Christian from the side and saw how he acted, and he was very concentrated. He was very determined, and so I thought, you should simply talk to Christian about whether he would like to join us on the board, to be in charge of technology. And that's how it happened. I asked him, and he asked for some time off, some time to think. And then we sat down together again and talked about what tasks needed to be done on the board. And in the end, he said yes. And so I found a member of the board for technology, and today Christian has been working with us for over 8 months, very intensively, very committedly. And so I have made a big gain. I think the cooperative has made a big gain overall. That's why team building is so important, because at the end of the day you don't just have to do the work. You also have to understand each other as people. Because without that it won't work.
And with the background that not only Thomas and I are now on the board, but we also have a financial director and a second director for the technical area. What I've noticed since I came to this job as a novice is that it's very important to get information from the others about what's going on in our cooperative, and above all to distribute the information in a targeted way so that everyone is on the same page.
We have had to change completely. We used to be a two-member board. We worked in the same building and met in the corridor. That meant the exchange of information was often done in passing. With 4 board members, it is a bit more difficult. We started having weekly meetings to exchange information and discuss the most important things. After a good 6 months, we have been able to reduce these meetings a bit and can now still inform and swap information well. And the chemistry between the 4 of us is still very good, and we can work on projects together.
As already mentioned, we have 2 board members in the field of technology. That means we have now found a way to divide up the individual projects and ourselves so that everyone has their own focus. So that a cooperative can position itself well, it is important that both of us have a certain insight into all the projects. We achieve this by meeting twice a month at certain times, where we only talk about the technical aspects of the different projects and exchange ideas. We can help each other, which simply means that we ask each other questions about the project, and the other person can then see if something is still open or where his focus still needs to be.
Team building is also important because the cooperative will grow at some point. For example, with the development of the Fridays for Future movement, we have grown in all areas, both in terms of members and energy sales. Then it's important if you can't implement the projects so optimally yourself, or have problems with growth, to get professional advice. Often this is offered so that you can position yourself better overall. When the cooperative grows, the tasks also grow, and we have created the first possibility for the board to receive at least an expense allowance. If we continue to professionalize, we can even employ the board as full-time staff. That is our goal. We have not quite reached it yet, but we wish all those who are on this path that they can reach this goal.